So how do you get perfect entries? You really have to have a confluence of things you look at. So what I mean by that is I use moving averages, right? But I don't just use moving averages. You use many different things. So think of it like a checklist. In order to get perfect entries, you need to have a checklist. So on your piece of paper, you need to have a checklist of, say, is there support and resistance? Have the moving averages crossed over? Do I see a pattern I trade? Are the fundamentals right? I.e., it's not an NFP or it's not some big news event. So those are the checklists I use. And let's just go down for how to get a perfect entry from technical analysis all the way to entry, because it's everything from your technical analysis to your entry. It's not just waking up and then just getting a perfect entry. It's your entire process that leads to you to get a perfect entry. So this is the US dollar rand, and to get a perfect entry, we've now done our technical analysis, right, upon along the downtrend, right? And so this is the strategy I like to trade. Some give it funny names. I've seen people call it ABO strategy and whatever it is. You can also use that. So I like to follow a downtrend, and then I like to catch an entry before the uptrend starts. So what this strategy play is, it's just an entry to it's just an entry on the beginning of an uptrend. So we see our downtrend, that's our pattern, right? That's checklist. Number two, draw your support and resistance. We've drawn this resistance here. We've drawn this support here. We've drawn another support here. So what we're aware of is that price could drop down from this support, and then this support may not hold, and then come down all the way to this point here. So what tends to happen a lot of the times is people just dive in on support and resistance, and they lose trades, and then they don't get perfect entries. So what I like to do is I've identified my pattern, I've put in my support and resistance. Now what I'm waiting for is the crossover of the moving averages. That's where things start to get really important. So let's say I believe this support is going to hold, although that's unlikely. I start to go down to the lower time frames, so like the 4 hour, right? That's the first one I go down to. And I go down to the 4 hour for one reason. I use the 89 moving average. This is the black one, exponential moving average. So let me just show you. You go to exponential moving average. So this is the one, the big moving average I use, the 89 exponential, apply to close, right? And then you set it in black. And as long as price is below the 89 moving average, it means we're in a downtrend. So remember, we're trying to catch the uptrend. So now we start going down to the 1 hour, trying to get a good entry. As you can see, 1 hour support and resistance. And what I like to wait for at a support and resistance is two things: a divergence play. If you've gone through my other videos, you'll watch what I do with divergences. So a divergence is like a W, that's all it is, just in short. So what you'll do is you'll go to indicators, stochastics. You can either use stochastics or the TDI. So what I like to do is wait for a divergence. And as you can see, this is not a clear divergence, which is why why I'm doubtful of this support resistance holding. But what you do is you look for a divergence. For me, this looked like a divergence. If this was a bit lower, then I would enter, right? So after seeing the divergence, I want to wait for the moving averages to cross. So these remaining moving averages here, the 21 is in blue and then the 8 is in red. I want to wait for them to cross over each other. Like this crossover here, then it's a down play. This crossover here, then it's a down play. So what I want to do is wait for a crossover so that I get a buying opportunity. And since this is the 1 hour, it can go down. Sometimes I go down even to the 15 minutes. So this is the crossover I'm talking about. So if there was a divergence somewhere here, right, say these 2 points were the divergence, I would have waited for a crossover here, perfect entry like this. I would have entered at this support resistance area here. I see my divergence, I see my crossover, I would have entered. Now I would have entered and then things would have gone well, and then all of a sudden price would have dropped. Now you would have moved your stop loss. By the time price got here, you would have moved your stop loss to break even, right? And then even if price came crashing down like this, you wouldn't have lost because it would have just closed at zero. And then now what would you be doing? You'd be waiting for this next support and resistance, and then you do the exact same steps I've talked about. Let's look at this other pair, US dollar ruble, right? So on big picture thinking, what I'm waiting for here Let me just find what I'm waiting for here. So I was waiting for a double top here. So this is the first point. This is not the second point. If you go down to the line chart, you'll notice that this actually did touch. Sorry. This point touched. This point touched. But remember, there's such thing as not only a double top, but a triple top. So what I'm looking at here is not only a double top, but a triple top. So we've touched here, and now I'm waiting for this to touch at the top here, and then it's a triple top. If you don't know a triple top, you can do a simple Google, you'll find out what it is. So now let's go down to the 1 hour so I can show you how I would have entered, or how I'm going to enter for the triple top. So say you are trading this like a double top. You see your pattern, that's the double top. You've seen the support and resistance, you've drawn your line here. Now you're trying to enter. So the crossover is coming late here on the 1 hour. So what you do is you start to look for entries on the 15-minute. Is you wait on the 15-minute for this crossover here. So the crossover between the 8 and the 21 moving average. So you've identified your double top, you've put in your support and resistance. Now what you're waiting for is a divergence, and this is obviously a divergence looking pattern. So you now see your divergence and then the crossover between the 8 and the 21. Don't worry about a crossover with the 89, especially on the 15-minute and the 1 hour. Just focus on the divergence and the crossover between the 21 and the 8 moving average. Next pair. This is a falling wedge, if I'm correct. Yes. So this is a falling wedge. Just Google if you don't know what a falling wedge is. This is what it looks like. It's just price being consolidated in this triangle that's falling in a downtrend. So here's our falling wedge. We've identified our falling wedge. We are now putting in our support and resistance levels here. And so now you've identified that it's a falling wedge. You've put in your support and resistance lines. Now you're going into the lower time frames to see. Remember, you go to the 4 hour to see if we're still in a downtrend. Remember, we want to look at the 89 moving average. And here's where things start to get interesting. Remember, we use the 89 moving average only to see the direction of the trend. So now we're on the 4 hour and we can see we're at the 89 moving average. Price is about to jump over the 89 moving average. Remember, with the falling wedge, we're looking for a buy opportunity. So the fact that price is now nearly breaching the 89 moving average, we're getting ready to enter. This is a very common thing, just sidetrack. This is a very common thing with patterns that have become common to brokers. Things like falling wedges. Be very careful when you're trading them, because brokers know everyone's trying to buy here. So look what happens to price. Price just falls and they knock out people's stop losses. And this is just a side note. If you go to the book Way of the Turtle, there's something called systems death. This is page 87. And what it means is a change in market dynamics that cause a previously profitable system to start losing money. And if you apply this to our retail level, this just means that brokers now know how people are trading, and so because of that, the system stopped working because brokers now know how to manipulate the system. They know everyone's buying at the support and at the falling wedge. So now that we've seen on the 4 hour that we're about to be above the 89 moving average, we're getting ready to buy. Now let's go look for a crossover on the 1 hour. Here we go at the 1 hour. Crossover came here, right? So this was a beautiful divergence here, right? Beautiful divergence right here. And then crossover would have entered here, right? And then as price entered here, you would have moved your stop loss to break even, so that even if price did knock you out, you'll still get a second entry. And then where did the second entry come here? This is the divergence, right? These 2 points here are the divergence, right? Here's your crossover and here's an entry.